Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Do you dread hearing the question, what's for dinner? Whether you spend your days keeping up with toddlers, running kids to after-school activities, or juggling a career and family, getting dinner on the table can be a struggle for us all. I'm Mariefiebach, a business owner, wife, and mom of 4. I'm on a mission to build stronger families one dinner at a time, and I'm here with tips, tricks, and inspiration you need to feed your family tonight. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast, episode 147. I'm your host, Mariefiebach, and today we have a real treat. It is an on-air coaching call with Rita and Gino Rossini. They are so delightful. Rita had filled out an application to have on-air coaching. Then right before we were getting ready to record, she said, "Can my husband come on too? He actually does most of the cooking and meal planning in our home." And I said, well, yes, if he's the one who's doing the meal planning and a lot of the cooking, then he definitely needs to be on the call. And it was so much fun to talk with them. One thing I told them before we started recording was that sometimes I'm not here to give really big, huge, life-changing answers. I'm here to give a few small little tweaks that can make a big difference in your home. And when you listen to this episode, you're going to hear 2 or 3 small little tweaks that really will make a big difference in their home. So sit back, enjoy this great on-air coaching call with Rita and Gino Rossini. Welcome to the podcast, Rita and Gino Rossini. I am so excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it is such a joy. We were getting to know each other off air for just a minute and found out that our paths have crossed in crazy ways. So it's always so fun to connect with listeners. And it is such a joy to be with you today. We're kind of going to dive right in. And I would like you both to just take a quick moment to kind of introduce yourselves and your family and let us know kind of what phase of life you are at.
So I am a mom of 5. Gino and I have 5 children, ages 18, 17, 14, 12, and 10. So one that's about to leave for college and then all the way down to a 5th grader. I am in my 3rd year of nursing school. And so the phase of life that we're in right now is that our children and Gino have taken over much of the, Gino has shared a huge amount of the burden of, cooking, dinner prep, meal, shopping, planning, all of that as a way to kind of lighten my load so I can focus more on my studies. It's been tremendous. I couldn't do this without his support in that way. And so that's where we are right now.
And Gino, so you're doing a lot of the cooking. Do you enjoy cooking, or is it something that you do because you love your wife?
Well, I do enjoy cooking, but I actually don't do a lot of it. I do a lot of the meal planning and shopping. And because of my work, we basically have to either have extremely easy meals or rope one of our kids into quarterbacking the meal prep.
Okay. And so are your kids good about that? Do they love it? Do they hate it? Do they tolerate it? How are your kids on that spectrum?
It seems to be difficult.
Okay. Well, our listeners know I have 4 teenagers, and some of them can cook. None of them like to cook. So I totally understand that. Okay. So tell me what dinner time in general is like. Are you having to work around activities? Are you having to eat in shifts? I know, Rita, you're a student. What is your schedule like?
They do have activities. They're going, they're back in school. So we try to have kind of a dinner time around 6:30. That, can vary depending on the day of the week. The majority of the time, the food prep and meal prep it's got to be less than 30 minutes. If it takes longer than that, it's just not usually a good fit for us. If we foresee that it's going to take longer than that, it ends up being frozen pizza or, that's kind of our fallback.
Yeah. So, but do you keep frozen pizzas on hand for days when the wheels fall off and you're like, it's not going to happen?
Yes.
Gino's nodding.
Right. Yes. We have frozen pizzas. We have hot dogs. We have, what else? Frozen lasagna.
We have a frozen lasagna. It doesn't really work out for us most of the time because we have to think ahead.
Well, yeah, because they take an hour to cook. Now, are either of you working from home where you can put it in an hour early, or are you walking in the door and having to start prep at 6 o'clock?
So it depends on my schedule. I'll have 3 clinical days where, yes, I'll be walking in around 6:30. And then I've got 2 days where I'm in class. And some of those days finish early. Some of the in-class days finish early. One of them, it usually finishes around 5 o'clock. So it's pretty tight, and then everybody's demanding your attention and whatnot. And by the time you get around to it, it's 6 o'clock. So it's cutting it close.
Yeah. And usually each day I would work from the office. So I'm not at home.
Okay.
I usually come in right around 6.
Okay. So you guys are out and then you are coming back in and everybody's hungry and dinner needs to get on the table pronto. Okay, Gino, you said you talk a lot about that you work with the meal planning in your family. Tell me about how you're planning and what your system is for grocery shopping. Are you using online shopping? Are you going to the store 5 times a week? No judgment either way. I'm just kind of curious where you're at on those 2 things.
Sure. Well, the routine, when we're in the routine, is that one of our daughters and I get together on Saturday morning, plan the menu, check and see what's in the cupboard, in the fridge, and we do a spreadsheet grocery list, and then we go to a couple of different stores to pick up what we need for the week. And usually that covers us for the week.
So you're not running to the store multiple times. That is awesome that you're organized enough and you kind of have a plan. So then what do you want most for me to help you with? Are you wanting meal ideas? Are you wanting how to prep and get things on the table faster? What can I help you with most?
I think prepping and getting on the table faster, because we all have really busy schedules. So somehow to either shift the time of prep to the weekend or otherwise come up with very easy meal solutions.
Do you want to spend 2 or 3 hours on the weekend prepping? Is that something you want to do? Or would you rather find pockets of time during the week where you could do a little here and a little there? And some people like to just kind of have a big marathon session and know everything's in the fridge. And some people kind of like to just find little pockets of time so it doesn't feel so overwhelming for them. Which do you prefer?
To be honest with you, I want to be the sort of person who has the marathon prep session over the weekend, but it never works out.
I talked in episode 144 about how to find time to prep. And a couple of times that I have found that work for me is when I'm cleaning up dinner dishes. I already have my cutting board out. I already have the kitchen a mess. Sometimes I will do a little bit of prep then. So like if I am chopping veggies or if I'm cutting up chicken, my cutting board's already out. I'm going to have to sanitize the whole kitchen anyway. And so I might just take 5 minutes and cut up chicken for tomorrow night's meal. Is that something that you've ever tried?
We haven't tried it that systematically. Sometimes, like if we're going to be making chicken, then we'll make chicken for the week and then use some for chicken salad for lunches and some for, barbecue chicken, just we might prepare the meat in bulk, but usually not the actual chopping of the veggies or something like that.
That's something that you might start thinking about is before you clean up your dinner dishes, is there something I can do today to make my life better tomorrow or the next day? And just kind of start asking yourself that question, because again, when the cutting board's out, the knife is out, the kitchen's already going to have to be cleaned up, you're going to save yourself time. Another little pocket of time that some people have and some people don't is just a little bit of time in the morning. My husband gets up and he has his 30-minute coffee ritual, and he kind of likes to putz in the morning. It kind of is part of his wake-up routine. And for him, being able to do just a little bit of something to make the day better, the morning works. Is that something that might work for you?
I think so. It might be a little bit challenging. We already have a morning routine that usually doesn't involve that. If it's but that could possibly work.
Well, that's something to look at, especially if I was looking at the kind of meals that your family likes to eat. And Rita was saying that you like salmon and you like chicken salad and that you'll eat kind of a variety of things, but your family is trying to eat a little bit lower carb. So a little bit heavier on the proteins, heavier on the veggies. Is that kind of right, Gino?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you're kind of trying to eat a little bit lower carb and going heavier on the veggies and heavier on the meats, then taking a little bit of time in the morning and getting the meat salted and cut into the right size can be a game changer come dinner time. And I really talk about that salting of the meat because that's part of making things taste delicious. And salt plus time equals magic with almost every kind of meat that you are cooking. So if you're cooking some type of a beef product, except for ground meats, and I don't like to oversalt ground meats because it can mess with the texture and make it a little funky. But if you're having like a strip steak and you're making a Mongolian beef, or you're having like a grilled meats or chickens, if you can get them cut into the right size and salted in the morning, and even if you're doing something with a marinate it in the morning, have it in the refrigerator so that when you get home, all you have to do is add heat to it. Have you ever done that before, gotten things prepped ahead of time, and then all you have to do is add the heat to it when you walk in the door?
Not usually, but that does sound like that would be a big help.
That is something that I think could be a big game changer for your family, especially when you're eating higher veggies. My other question is, do you have an electric pressure cooker like an Instant Pot?
We have two.
Oh, you are my kind of people. Okay. I have two as well because I usually use one for brown rice and one for whatever meat or protein I am cooking, and I will often run them both at the same time. I have a couple of recipes in my Instant Pot that I think would work well for your family, especially the way your family eats. And you can serve them both with any kind of rice if you eat rice, but if you're trying to go lower carb, serve it with a cauliflower rice or a giant bed of vegetables. And that is Instant Pot Mongolian beef. And that is a really fun recipe. I'll link to it in the show notes, but you have to kind of quickly brown the meat a little bit, and then you put it in with a little bit of soy sauce. And if you're trying to do gluten-free, you can substitute out gluten-free tamarind for the soy sauce or coconut aminos. Those both work well. A little bit of orange zest and some water, and then you cook it for like 20 minutes in the Instant Pot. So that's something that you can do when you get home. The other one, this one does have carbs, but it's brown rice, and it's my Instant Pot chicken and brown rice. It takes about 30 minutes start to finish, even though it's only a 22-minute cook time on the Instant Pot. But you layer the brown rice in the bottom and you put frozen chicken breasts on top, which is great because this is one of those meals when you're like, oh, I didn't thaw the meat, I didn't prep in the morning. You can pull frozen chicken breasts straight out of the freezer and put them in with a little bit of chicken broth, cook it for 22 minutes, and you end up with, it's really basic food. It's not fancy. There's not sauces. But I found in my home that simpler food in a busy phase of life is just better.
Absolutely.
How are your kids about being picky? Talk with me about the pickiness level that you're facing in your home.
I think we've always had a policy of this is dinner. I've not really ever catered to picky eaters. So we don't really have a lot of that.
We don't have time for picking.
You guys do not know how much of a unicorn you are to have 5 kids and not be facing picky eaters. I am so happy for you that you don't have to face that. The other thing that really helps with families, because again, we're in kind of the same life phase right now where we've got kids that are teens and tweens and 2 working parents. It makes life really busy. Do you ever do like cook once, eat twice, where whatever you make double of and throw part in the freezer for another time?
I'm a huge fan of that. It's hard though with growing boys.
Yeah, we plan to, but then it gets eaten up. So yeah.
Okay. So this is a really important point that I think a lot of listeners are going to relate to, is that expectations and reality have to match to not have frustration. Frustration happens when expectations and reality are not the same. And when you have kids that are physically eating more food, it takes a big mental shift to A, budget for the amount of food that you're actually having to buy, and then B, buying the actual amount of food that your family eats. I have an 18-year-old son who eats like 2 kids. He works at FedEx. And so he is like heavy lifting, like doing heavy lifting jobs. And so he eats a lot of food. And it took a lot of time for me to realize that I had to budget for the amount of food, especially because I suspect you guys try to eat the same way we do, where it's a lot of whole foods, just simple meats, simple vegetables, simple carbs, and lots and lots of veggies to try and eat as healthy as possible. That can get expensive. But then also when you are making taco meat, like I make 12 pounds of taco meat at a time. And like your average family with toddlers, that's 12 meals. In my house, that's 3 or 4 meals, maybe.
Yes.
Have you guys made that mental shift to know that when you do that cook once, eat twice, you actually have to buy what feels like massive amounts of food?
I'm not sure that we have. So we have another, expectation versus reality disconnect when it comes to leftovers, because we will make leftovers with the intention that they'll be eaten. But then our kids wind up making themselves a sandwich or a quesadilla or something. The leftovers don't get eaten. So I hesitate to buy more when it seems like we're really struggling to actually consume all the food that we're buying, rather than having, and I don't like to push food off on people like, no, you must eat this now. So it's hard to get that sweet spot of, okay, if we're going to buy it, let's actually make it. And if we take the time to make it, let's go ahead and eat it, rather than making ourselves a sandwich or something else and letting the leftovers just sit in the fridge.
Rita's nodding her head. Do you feel the same way?
I do. I guess we're looking for a way to be more intentional with our leftovers, like having a specific plan, knowing when that food will be consumed.
What's your freezer space like? Do you have a pull underneath? Do you have an extra deep freeze? What's your freezer space like?
Yeah, we've got 2 refrigerators. And so, yes, a pull-out freezer drawer. And then also we've got the side-by-side freezer.
Okay. And with kids in school, do you think do they eat school lunch, or do they pack lunches? What's their school lunch situation?
They prefer to bring it from home.
Okay. My kids do too. When they take lunch from home, do they take sandwiches or do they take leftovers?
They actually do not like sandwiches at school.
Okay. Yeah. I'm right there with you. I've got kids like that too. Okay. So what do they like to eat for school lunch or for lunch at school?
Let's see. Their favorites would be, they like tomato soup. They like pasta. That's probably actually, now that we're talking and kind of thinking through, this would be a good place to put little reminders to eat the leftovers. They love chicken salad. That's one of their favorites.
I love chicken salad too. Ooh, yum. So then do they eat that with like crackers, or do they eat it just straight out of a tub? How do they like to eat their chicken salad?
Some will bring crackers. Some will just have that. Some will, some of our daughters would bring like a little bit of a side salad and put it with that. That's what I've done as well for clinicals. Yeah, I think it depends on their mood. If we have good bread, like the sourdough type bread,
yeah,
they like to bring that. And they won't make the sandwich before, because then they don't like the soggy bread. Yeah.
Okay, so then let's circle back to this original thing that got us down this, is talking about cook once, eat twice, and the issue of having leftovers that are going to waste, and that expectation and reality not matching. When you go to cook extra, what would you think about cooking extra and putting it straight into the freezer for another dinner and have no expectation that would be consumed as a lunch or a snack as a leftovers? How does that set with you?
I think that's a great idea.
I think that would be key to do it even before we are serving the dinner. Like, okay, we're removing this mixed taco meat or spaghetti sauce or whatever it is and putting it aside.
And Rita, that is key. That is so key because my kids will eat to whatever I have cooked, whether I have planned it or not.
It's so true.
I mean, they will. So pulling out the portion that you're expecting to save for another meal first and putting that aside and then serving the meal with what you expect for dinner that night and paying attention to your kids' hunger cues and saying, is this enough? Is this too much? And start kind of really paying attention. And that's going to change from summertime to school. In my house, the amount of food that my children eat during the school year often feels like more at dinner, but then they're eating lunch at school. Notice as seasons change and appetites change, and again, you're going to be losing one. So you're going to be down one, feeding one too soon, with one going off to college. That's going to make a difference too. So start paying attention to the actual amounts, pull out the portion that you expect, and then have that set aside for another dinner. Let it cool down to room temperature before you put it in the freezer. That's kind of my food safety person talking, as I don't want anybody to get sick. It's never a good idea to put piping hot food straight into the freezer. You want to let it kind of cool down to room temperature before you freeze it. And that's perfect because you pull it out, you set it in the container, you eat your dinner, you clean up your dinner. By then it's close enough to room temperature. You can throw it in the freezer and you're good. Then talking on that, I know, Gino, you said that ideally you think maybe you could do a little bit of prep on the weekends, but you don't really it doesn't happen in reality very often, which I am not a fan of prepping on the weekends. I'll just let you know. It's just, I have very, very simple meals on the weekends because I know that I want to spend my time doing other things. But I have a recipe for big batch taco meat. And that's one thing where I make 12 pounds because 12 pounds fits in my largest pot. So 12 pounds is what I make, and you can size it up to pounds. And I will make 12 pounds, and then I have 3 or 4 meals in the freezer that all I have to do is pull that out, thaw it, open up some tortillas and a bag of shredded lettuce and some cheese, and dinner's on the table pretty fast. Are there meals that you already have in your repertoire that you could maybe do that once every 3 or 4 months, just make a giant batch of something like spaghetti sauce or tacos? Are there things like that you already have that you could really size up to make your life easier?
Well, you've mentioned 2 of them, which is the spaghetti sauce and the tacos. We usually have tacos because they can have it with the quesadillas. And if I want to have no carbs, I just put it on a salad. So it's a great go-to that we usually have, Taco Tuesday. So absolutely.
Taco Tuesday. We've also done pulled pork. So we'll get when the pork butts go on sale, the shoulders go on sale, we'll get a large, size and cook that and then portion it out. So that one can be either sandwiches or we'll put it, on the side with some salad.
I was going to say, another thing that we like to have is soup, chicken soup, like a chicken tortilla caldo type soup. So I'm just kind of thinking it through. Maybe what we can do is have all of everything but the broth prepared and then just add the broth when we thaw it. I don't know if that would work or not.
Okay, you totally segued into something that I was really thinking about for your family because it sounds like you eat a lot of chicken. When you make your chicken salad, what kind of chicken are you using?
Whichever chicken parts are on sale.
Okay. So then here is something that I think might be really, really useful for you. I did it just the other night. I was cooking something for dinner, but I was at the store. I was grilling chicken tenders. But I saw that the store had chicken thighs on sale too. So I bought 2 packages of chicken thighs. And while I was grilling my chicken tenders, I threw those chicken thighs in the Instant Pot and I just cooked them up. And then when dinner was over, they were done. They had cooled down. I threw them into baggies and I had them in my freezer. And so I just had shredded chicken thighs ready to go. It was cooking while I was making dinner, so it really didn't take any extra time except for a little bit of setup and a little bit of cleanup. Have you guys ever like used, and you've got 2 Instant Pots, and with the way your family eats, have you ever thought of like going and buying 20 pounds of chicken when it's on sale and using your 2 Instant Pots, getting it all cooked up and just having it cooked in your freezer ready to go for chicken soup and chicken salad and throwing in quesadillas?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We don't usually do that. I wonder if we have enough freezer space. It seems like we're always bumping up against the freezer space, even with 2 freezers.
Okay, so that's something you want to be aware of. Make sure you check your freezer space. Watch the sales on your chicken, and when chicken thighs or chicken breasts come on sale, buy a bunch up. I need to write up a Chicken Time Instant Pot cooking sheet because I think that would be helpful. And in your situation, if the protein is already cooked, dinner gets on the table 80% faster.
Oh, absolutely.
Or chicken tortilla soup is something that goes really well in a slow cooker. The only issue is that most people overcook their chicken in a slow cooker because chicken in a slow cooker really only takes 3 or 4 hours, and people are trying to put it in the morning at 7:30, and then it's toast by 9 o'clock at night. But if there's ever a day where you know that one of your teens is going to be home, then they can take the CrockPot Insert. You can have everything in the CrockPot Insert already. Just take the CrockPot Insert and put it in the crockpot and turn it on. Is that something that might be helpful? Are they ever home early in the day enough that they could do that for you?
Well, on Fridays they can be. It just, depending on their activities. And Thursdays I will be. And so that might be a good meal for one of those evenings.
Think about that on Thursdays. Gina, when you're planning your meals for the week, think about slow cooker meals on Thursdays that really only take 3 or 4 hours. And you can prep it all in the morning or the night before and have it in your little CrockPot Insert. Again, I'm a food safety kind of snob. So you keep that insert in your refrigerator, but then all you have to do is take it out of the refrigerator and turn the slow cooker on. And that's something that you can do when you've got a little tiny window of time at home on days like that. So start thinking about that for Thursdays. And then the other thing is you find that works for your family, then start keeping your eye open for slow cooker recipes that you think your family might like. When you go to pick recipes, you want to not find recipes that are too far off from what you're already making. I've talked with other families about this where you don't want to change the main ingredient or the flavors at the same time, which means you don't want to go from spaghetti and meat sauce to a vegetarian chickpea curry. You're changing too many things for your family, but you could go from spaghetti and meat sauce to spaghetti and lentils. That's a less of a leap for your family. So as you kind of stumble on recipes, if you think of ones that are just one step off from things that your family already likes, those are kind of recipes to hone in on as far as slow cooker and Instant Pot recipes.
That sounds really good.
That's great. That's great. I have a question about pan roasted meals. We have found that those can get on the table pretty quickly, but it seems like some meats and vegetables go together better than others, or there's a right. Some take longer to cook, and then it overcooks something else. So, do you have good suggestions for pairings for different pan roasted type meals? And one shortcut that we've taken, or Gino has taken rather, is buying the broccoli and the cauliflower, for example, all chopped up already. So it's a matter of just opening up that bag. And do you have any pairings?
I do. I have a couple of ideas. The first thing is that pre-cut veggies from the grocery store are amazing. I am a big fan of them. So that is great. When you are doing sheet pan meals, you have to think about heartier vegetables with thicker pieces of meat. So let me give you an example. If you are doing butternut squash and potatoes and beets and sweet potatoes, those are hearty vegetables that take a long time to cook. And those pair well with bone-in chicken that also takes a longer time. Then you go with lighter meats and vegetables that take less amount of time to cook. So think about pre-cooked sausage. I have a recipe for a sheet pan sausage and veggies that has turkey kielbasa that is already pre-cooked. So basically you're just heating it up with peppers and onions and cherry tomatoes. And those all take about the same amount of time to eat. Or you go somewhere in the middle and you get vegetables like green beans and broccoli and cauliflower, and you pair that with pieces of chicken breast, like chicken breast tenders. So it's not a giant slab of chicken breast, but it's not teeny tiny chunks either. And those are all going to take about the same amount of time to cook. So you're thinking about heavier, starchier vegetables. Then you get down to your less starchy vegetables like your peppers and your tomatoes. And the middle is kind of that broccoli and cauliflower and your chicken breast. Did that kind of answer your question?
Absolutely. That's huge. Yes.
So so let's say just kind of, I'm trying to think through this. If it's Monday and we're chopping up a bunch of onions and carrots and celery for something, and I'm thinking, okay, we want to have a tortilla soup later on in the week. Is that something that can I freeze all that? Or is that something that I need to put in the fridge and know that I need to keep an eye on that so it doesn't go bad in the fridge and I actually circle back and use it on, Wednesday or Thursday?
The answer is both. So here's the deal. If you know that you're going to be using it within chopped veggies, I usually don't like to keep more than 2 to 3 days in my refrigerator. So if you know that you're going to use it in 2 to 3 days, then you can just put it in a sealed container in your refrigerator. The onions, you want to be careful because it'll make everything else in your refrigerator smell. So you want to probably double seal them. A lot of times when I have cut onions, I'll put them in a zip bag and then put them in the container so that I've got kind of 2 layers of protection for everything else in my refrigerator. Or mason jars work really well too, and you can get a really tight seal on a mason jar. So if you use them within 2 to 3 days, great. If the wheels fall off for the day that you're supposed to be using them, take them and throw them straight in the freezer. They'll be fine. They can keep in the freezer for a couple of months, and then you can just pull them out and use them when you're doing them another day.
So could I cut up the meat, cut up the chicken, cut up the veggies, just put it all in a gallon Ziploc bag, throw it in the freezer, and then that's kind of an emergency meal when the wheels go off?
Absolutely. And you know what? My friends at thrivinghomeblog.com have a lot of those type of freezer meals already done up. And I'll link to it in the show notes, but you can go and they have really good pairings and directions of how to thaw them safely and how to put them either in your Instant Pot or your slow cooker safely, because there's a big food safety issue when you're dealing with frozen things going into the slow cooker. Check out my friends Rachel and Polly at thrivinghomeblog.com because they have a lot of really good resources on that, and it's not my wheelhouse. So I send people over there for those pre-packed freezer meals, and for sure they're really, really handy, and you absolutely can do that.
That sounds great.
Okay, anything else before I let you all go?
I think we have some good plans to fall back on rather than the frozen pizza a couple of times a week.
Well, and again, there is nothing wrong with frozen pizza every now and then. I really want families to know that this is not about being Pinterest perfect. This isn't about having perfectly quote unquote healthy, whatever that is to you, meals all the time. This is about getting dinner on the table so that you can connect with your families more and trying to make life just a little bit easier in the everyday, because we're all doing dinner 7 days a week in one form or another. And so it's okay if there's frozen pizza here and there. And I love keeping one in the freezer because there's a day when you're going to need it. So don't worry about that.
Dinner time has always been a huge priority for us as a family. And it's not been something that we've been willing to sacrifice in spite of, me being a full-time student and, working his full-time job and all of the busyness that goes on in our family. It's a priority for us. And so these tips are very, very helpful. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for joining us on the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. And I hope you guys do well. You'll have to follow up with me to see how things worked in your home.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Friends, wasn't that so much fun? Rita and Gino are just the kindest people, and it was so fun to talk with them and help them work through some of the small little things that they can do to make life easier in their home. I'm going to recap a few of those. The first one is that cook once, eat twice for them means that they cook double the amount, and they set it aside immediately before they serve dinner. And those are not planned leftovers for lunches or snacks, because their kids are not eating those as lunches or snacks, but as a full dinner, which is going to make their life easier, and there's no food waste. The other thing that we talked about was cooking up a large amount of chicken when chicken comes on sale, but being mindful of your freezer space before you go and buy that. So that's a big tip that I do in my home that might help you, and I really believe is going to help them in their home as well. Thanks so much for joining us, friends, on the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. If you are interested in coming on air and having an on-air coaching call, it's totally free. We meet over Zoom, and if you're interested, fill out an application. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/apply. I would love to have more of you on here for on-air coaching, because I really think we can all learn that our experiences are not that different, and small little tweaks can make a big difference in your home. So for now, friends, I hope you're having a great week. Take care.